And good morning, good morning, good morning. Quicker stream, I should say. This morning, 9:07 a.m. in the morning on Monday, March 24th, 2025. And I wanted to introduce you in this Dr. Mary's Monkey Teardown series to Dr. William H. Sebrell. Sebrell. William H. Sebrell. He was born in 1901 and he died in 1992. He was an American nutritionist. Now, I seriously doubt anyone here has heard of William Sebrell, aside from perhaps the author of Dr. Mary's Monkey, but we'll get to that in a second. So Sebrell is born in Virginia, and he served in the United States Public Health Service in 26. After completing an internship with the Public Health Service Marine Hospital in New Orleans, he was assigned to the Hygienic Laboratory, which was then known as the National Institutes of Health in Washington, D.C. He was a leading international authority on nutrition. Sebrell first recognized and described the dietary deficiency disease, erybophlavinosis, and made significant contributions to knowledge of dietary needs and deficiencies. He began his career under Dr. Joseph Goldberger, who demonstrated that pellagra is a deficiency disease, and during the 1960s, William Sebrell made contributions to knowledge of the anemias and the role of diet in cirrhosis. During World War II, William Sebrell was co-director of the National Nutrition Program, which coordinated activities of all state agencies working in nutrition. This program aided food production and the maintenance of civilian health during the war years. In 1948, he became the director of the Experimental Biology and Medicine Institute, and in October of 1950, he was appointed director of the NIH. So, though you may not have heard of him, he was actually the director of the National Institutes of Health. Now, this was back in a time when the director of the National Institutes of Health was actually someone who knew a lot about health. I mean, you needed to patent something. You needed to, create a molecule or something, find a disease, whatever. You couldn't just become, be at Stanford and, be a economist and get an NIH role. Anyways. He was the 7th director of the National Institutes of Health from 1950 to 1955. So kind of a big deal, all right? Kind of a big deal back at his time. Now, going on. So during World War II, he co-directed the National Nutrition Program. In 1948, he became director of Experimental Biology and Medicine Institute. And on October 1st of 1950, he was appointed director of the National Institutes of Health. He held his position until his resignation on July of 1955 amidst the Cutter incident, which is a scandal relating to the improper preparation of polio vaccines, which resulted in children being injected with the live polio virus. William Sebrell helped to formulate the first international standards of nutrition for the League of Nations and pioneered the growing acceptance of scientific nutrition as a regular function of modern state and local health departments. If I may add, if he was born in 1901 and died in 1992, that means he lived to a good old age of 91. So I'm willing to lean on the fact that he probably practiced what he preached. Seemed to live a pretty good, long life. He also organized Columbia University's Institute of Human Nutrition, and etc. And he died of cancer in 1992. Now, the reason why we bring up William H. Sebrell is if you look at the papers that he co-authored with, this is always where it goes, okay, you'll find some very fascinating papers. Is this the one here? So this is from the Evening Star, Washington, D.C., March 17th, 1942. Under the column of Stars, Men, and Atoms. Deficiencies in diets of two vitamins, thiamine and riboflavin, about doubles the susceptibility of fatal pneumonia infections in mice and probably in humans. This is the conclusion of two United States Public Health Service doctors, William H. Sabrell and Gerald G. Woolley, Wooley, from a series of 8 experiments. Hitherto, they explained, I never liked that word, much has been written about increased liability to infections because of lack of vitamins, but there has been little real evidence. This is amazing. So you could, have all kinds of funky ways of, immunizing people to, make it less susceptible, hypothetically, to some type of infections. Or you could just actually be studying which nutritional elements help people be protected against, certain infections. And here, Gerald G. Woolley and William H. Sabrell are both involved in and researching which supplements and which vitamins can help reduce the someone's susceptibility to pneumonia. Isn't that interesting? And one of the people that he co-authored most significantly with, see, can I open up this paper here? This is this goes back even a few years before that, a bacterial assay method for nicotinamine and related substances in blood, urine, and spinal fluid. Again, he's co-authoring with Gerald G. Woolley. So this highlights that there is an significance of this person, and he does have several papers co-authored with Gerald G. Woolley. Now, William H. Sabrell is mentioned once and only once in the Dr. Mary's Monkey book. If you go to SEB, on page 205, at least in the soft cover here, and I'll read the very small section. You don't really get too much of a flavor here, but I'll actually have to go back a page before that and start reading the full paragraph. I'm even going to go back just a couple paragraphs before. A handful of prominent doctors across the country stepped into the fray to throw the weight of their reputations on the side of the vaccine. One of those doctors was Mary Sherman's boss, Dr. Alton Ochsner. To demonstrate his conviction that the vaccine was really ready, he inoculated his own grandchildren with it. The mass inoculation proceeded on schedule. Within days, children fell sick from polio. Some were even crippled and some died. Estimates vary dramatically. Ochsner's grandson died. His granddaughter contracted polio but survived. An enormous lawsuit erupted. Heads rolled everywhere. The Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, Ovida Hobby, stepped down. The Director of the National Institutes of Health, William H. Sabrell, also resigned. It was the biggest fiasco in medical history, at least up until that point, and according to this book. Of course, if you have to ignore the yellow fever vaccine, you have to ignore the sanitation conditions which led to the Spanish flu or the 1918 flu and several other things, but let's just ignore that. The Director of the National Institutes of Health, William H. Sabrell, also resigned. It was the biggest fiasco. A second, safer vaccine was developed by Albert Sabin, which was deployed. It was a weakened live virus instead of a dead virus, and it worked. All right, so it mentions it, and that's it. That doesn't mention anything more about William Sabrell. But if the book was more thorough, it would say that William Sabrell was a longtime colleague, bridge partner, I believe, also as well, and co-author, prominent co-author of Gerald Woolley. And Gerald Woolley, I can't find a picture of him yet, is the husband of Bernice Eddy. So I'm having a hard time understanding how someone so important, connected to one of the most significant characters of the book, is just omitted, given the fact that he wasn't just working, way over there on the side somewhere. He actually has multiple relationships with other people within the book. Given that, a high level review of some of the papers of Gerald G. Woolley, I think, would be appropriate. Of course, I wouldn't expect this book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, to cover it, given the fact that if you just read the synopsis on the back, did inoculating millions of trusting school children with polio vaccines contaminated by monkey virus trigger an epidemic of soft tissue cancers? Was a desperate effort to develop an anti-cancer vaccine diverted secretly into biological weapons? And of course, I got a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald and everything else there. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. No mention, of course, of the person that was looking at an anti-cancer vaccine, which would be Alice E. Moore. Of course, there's going to be no mention in here of the 1960s efforts by Rand Development Corporation to pursue an anti-vaccine. It's just going to be everything about a Kennedy assassination and conspiracies around, of course, Harswald and all that other stuff. But looking at the papers, I found this one to be really fascinating. Now, this doesn't include Sabrell specifically, but it does include other co-authors of his. The effect of certain chemical compounds on the multiplication of a bacteriophage. And this was 1951, just 3 years before Gerald G. Woolley died of a heart attack at age 64 in his home. This was from the National Institute of Arthritis and Metabolic Disease, National Institutes of Health, Public Health Service. And I'm just going to read the first 3 sentences, okay, 2 or 3. Bacteriophages offer a comparatively simple means of studying the effect of chemical compounds on the multiplication of viruses. Now, why would studying a bacteriophage, which is, I know it's viruses for bacterium, but why would it give you a simple means of studying the effect of chemical compounds? By also studying multiplication of regular viruses. I mean, these are different things, right? Many substances have been found capable of inhibiting the development of bacteriophages without greatly affecting the multiplication of host cells. Certain metabolic poisons have been shown to inhibit phage multiplication in the absence of cell growth, while others do not. Just throwing out there the significance of that first paragraph, that first sentence. Keep in mind that there in the archives is correspondence between Joshua Lederberg and this Gerald G. Woolley, both names exempt from the Dr. Mary's Monkey book, even though Joshua Lederberg is one of, I think, one of the, if not one of the 10, at the very least, one of the 100 most important Americans to know about, perhaps in U.S. history. Their correspondence was about the use of some of these chemicals, such as desoxypyridoxine, as a way to be able to control or inhibit bacteriophage or replication. This is very interesting. That Joshua Lederberg, by the way, has significance going all the way to the year 2001, where he was appointed by none other than Donald Rumsfeld to head the internal Pentagon investigations about what happened with 9/11. Kind of strange that I thought 9/11 was supposed to be about terrorism and Jews and bombs and guns and Osama bin Laden, but the person that Donald Rumsfeld appoints to run the 9/11 investigations was a bacteriologist who understands bacteriophages. Bacteriophages, which, by the way, I guess if you study bacteriophages, you're basically studying viruses. You don't need to be much of a brainiac to put together where this goes and why this is the type of damning evidence that's going to bring down the house that you can't find in Dr. Mary's Monkey. And sometimes what you can't find immediately tells you what's important. I love it when people omit things. If they included it in the book, I would be less likely to think it was relevant. There's no escaping this one. Anyways, that's my little morning update. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great morning. God bless.